Joining us now, Congressman, 5th District, Republican, Virginia, Tom Garrett. Congressman, good to have you with us, man.
John Fredericks, how are you, man?
Trucking the truth. Trump's speech tonight. Now, tell me this isn't going to be fun, right? He's going to walk in. All the Democrats are going to turn their back. Then they're going to, fold their arms. Nobody's going to clap. Then they're going to boo. What do you look for this evening?
I think we should take some balls so they can take their ball and go home. I haven't seen this sort of childish behavior since grade school.
Really? It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, this is the President of the United States, right? Just sit there and hear what he has to say. There's got to be some common ground, right?
Honestly, in 8 years, we got Joe Wilson, who impulsively said you lied, and no other examples of Republicans acting like children.
That's right.
Tonight's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. That's why I'm getting out the scotch and the popcorn, and I can't wait. Okay, now, let's get to Obamacare. So Paul Ryan his plan leaks out, causing consternation in the Freedom Caucus and the Republican Study Committee. Both Congressman Walker and Meadows not happy with it. Walker blasting the leak, the document he saw, saying that what he saw he could not support in any way. And he said the number one reason is it would encompass an entitlement, a new entitlement in the form of a tax credit or tax refund, which means I think if you make a certain amount of money, you get it off your taxes. If you don't make enough money, you actually get money towards your insurance. Is that the way it works?
You nailed it. So it's like the earned income tax credit,
right,
wherein essentially you're given money to bring you up to a number. The plan that we signed on to, which was the Sanford Paul plan that we rolled out along with 4 or 5 other members a week ago, would allow a deduction for your health insurance coverage. It would also actually open up markets across state lines by eliminating the antitrust exemption for health insurance policies. It would also encourage responsible behavior, like putting away money on the front end by allowing people to have access to some of that money on the back end. It's a carrot rather than a stick. And what we got right now, and it's fun talking to you, John, because you were an original Trumper. Mm-hmm. I was not. But what we got right now is a situation where I think the president's growing very frustrated with a little bit of the paralysis by analysis inside of some of the Republican ranks. We ran and made promises, and I don't know what course others may take, but as for me, we're going to do what we said we're going to do, or else maybe I won't be around. I mean, this is simple. It's about looking the people in the eyes and saying, here's what we're going to do, and then going and doing it. And there's some people who are losing the stomach for the fight. The president's frustrated. I'm frustrated. Mark Meadows and the Freedom Caucus is frustrated. We need to move.
So I think insiders are telling me in the White House that the president is shocked, and I don't say this lightly, shocked that the Republicans really had no plan. That they
I disagree. I disagree. We have no consensus. We have multiple plans, but we have no consensus.
Okay, better word. No consensus. So how do you get from where we are now to getting some consensus? Because, I mean, if you look at Rand Paul's plan, Dr. Paul in the Senate, it's totally different from what Ryan had that got leaked out. Because with his plan, there is no entitlements. I mean, it just kind of totally ends the thing, where the Ryan plan perpetuates it, creates a new entitlement. And I mean, it's just fixing it or changing it, not repealing it at all. So
right. We can do socialism better than you can.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know why it is that we think that a system that's failed everywhere it's ever been tried will work when we're the ones who are trying it.
Right.
So look, the Paul plan actually has a 2-year window wherein if you have a pre-existing condition, you can slip in. We have a plank that we're working to insert that would create coverage for pre-existing conditions for perpetuity without creating an entitlement, mm-hmm, by shifting the individual mandate to a provider mandate and then tax incentivizing the providers, because it's a whole lot easier to monitor for fraud, waste, and abuse between 300 providers than it is between 300 million Americans. And so these things are out there. We need to repeal, we need to replace, and then we can tweak it along the way, which is what our office's pre-existing condition plan would be. It would be we've repealed, we've replaced, and now we're gonna continue to make it better. But I mean, I know we've only been here for nobody knows as well as I do. I don't think that we've only been here for a couple of months, but there should be, well, I guess I'm almost 60 days into 100 days. The president is about 40 days into 100 days. Let's get some stuff done. Now, having said that, we've done some real things on regulatory reform, but I don't think people elected us on regulatory reform alone. I think that the Obamacare sort of promise was a big part of why we're here.
It is a big one, and it's got to get done. And extending additional entitlements going forward and doing Obama tweak, I really don't think that's what people had in mind when Trump said he was going to repeal and replace it, and he said it for a very long time. So, look, here's the thing, though. Honestly, Congressman Garrett, let's not jump to conclusions because there is not a consensus plan that has come out. You guys haven't had the meetings. You haven't met with your caucus and come up with a single plan that a majority can agree on. And so something got leaked. It blew up. It's got a lot of criticism. And there's a separate plan, as we mentioned, in the Senate. I think everybody just needs to breathe, right? And you guys need to meet and figure this out. Am I right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know if when you say a separate plan in the Senate, whether you're referring to the Collins plan or whether you're referring to the Paul-Sanford plan, because that one's actually bicameral. We need to. I've already pledged to support multiple plans, even though I was one of the 5 people that spoke alongside Rand Paul to the Paul-Sanford plan when we rolled that out. I'm not going to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. However, I do think there are better plans out there, and that's why we're on board with the Paul-Sanford plan. But this sitting around now, having said that, the alternative may be passing a bill so we can find out what's in it, and we know how well that works.
Right.
So I don't mind the deliberative process, but we really do need to sit down and get our ducks in a row.
Right. Well, I think that has to happen. And look, I agree with you. From anything that I've seen tidbits of, the Senator Rand Paul, Congressman Sanford plan is the best I've seen. But again, right now, that's not the consensus plan. So as frustrating as this is, I think you guys have got to move on it.
Well, here's what I've done. I've said if we can't get the Paul-Sanford plan, I'm willing to listen to what the leadership's plan is. I'd like for the leadership plan to say, if we can't get the leadership plan, we're willing to be supportive of the Paul-Sanford plan.
Right.
I'd like a little bit of back and forth here.
That makes sense. Let's get to another topic. You played a major role, Congressman Tom Garrett, in getting a Czech pastor out of prison for some time. Are you able to share that with our audience?
Well, a little bit of it. I will tell you that the Indefensible Charlottesville movement had a town hall with an empty chair. Ironically, at the exact same time that Czech pastor was flying back from a Sudanese prison, somewhere there's an empty chair in a Sudanese prison because we chose to work on that. So Petr Hasek was a Czech pastor, missionary, aid worker who was charged essentially with aiding rebels, which ostensibly is feeding people who didn't agree with the government, and was in prison for a period of 20 or 22 years, depending upon which outlet you read. Mm-hmm. Along with 2 Sudanese pastors, we took the initiative to reach out to both the Czechs here in the United States, met with the ambassador, met with the deputy foreign minister in the Czech Republic, and for the first time in a decade sat down at the Sudanese embassy with the Sudanese ambassador and essentially said, let's look at tomorrow and not yesterday. You guys are under review for being removed from the state sponsors of terrorism list. It would be a wonderfully goodwill gesture if you would release these dissidents. And then about 6 days after we were able to sit down with the letter to President al-Bashir and the ambassador, we received word directly to our office that the Czech missionary would be released. Indeed, the Czech foreign minister flew down. We met with the deputy foreign minister last Friday. The Czech foreign minister flew down to Khartoum, and he was released and home on Sunday. We're still working, and I want to give some credit to the Sudanese for operating in good faith to see the release of the 2 Czech pastors and their families, and I'm trying to see if I can't work out a situation where we could receive J2 refugee visa status for those men and their families to come to the United States. And So that's something when you get to be a part of it that kind of makes you feel humble, because I know that somewhere a man is with his family who was just last week in a prison cell in the Republic of the Sudan, and it's nice to feel like we've been able to help in some way.
Well, look, that is an amazing story. Are there others, Congressman Tom Garrett, in a similar situation that you may be in a position to help?
Well, there's a young man from the University of Virginia who's in North Korea. We're trying to circle around and see if we can find an angle on that. The closest North Korean embassy to us is in Mexico City. But I happen to be on the Foreign Affairs Committee and on the Global Human Rights Subcommittee thereof, and that gives us a little bit of latitude as it relates to working with the administration and other governments. I don't control U.S. policy, but what I can do, what I will do, is tell the administration as they review the Sudanese case, these folks worked in good faith. Should these folks have been arrested and in prison to begin with? Well, that may be beside the point. When we asked for commitments in action, there were commitments in action, and that, I think, demonstrates a desire to become a more engaged player on the global stage, and so that's a good thing. So it's just sort of finding an opportunity within the committee assignments we have to do the good we can do. Certainly there are people in prison around the globe for various human rights reasons that we'd love to help with. And this one, the funny backstory, John, my wife read about it on Facebook, and we were on the phone the next day setting up a meeting with the Czech ambassador and then ultimately with the Sudanese. And so it's funny how the world works sometimes.
Now, so that our audience knows, which congressional committee is this emanating from?
Well, this was the work we did here was as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. So when we sent the letter to President Bashir, it was copied to Ed Royce, to Mark Meadows, to Chris Smith, people who are on the committee, the appropriate subcommittee chairs, and just saying, hey, this is something you don't just go bebopping into the Sudanese embassy without telling some folks you're going to do it, which is why nobody's done it in so long. Mm-hmm. But I feel like, again, the results speak for themselves. And, the Czechs did a lot of work. I think this gentleman had been in prison for about 15 months. I don't want to take any credit from anybody. I just know that they were very responsive when we became engaged, and that we heard directly from their embassy about 3 or 4 days before Mr. Hashik was released. And that's, to the extent that we can continue to do this sort of thing where we find people held under unfair or inhumane circumstances, then we will.
Well, I really have to commend your enthusiasm and your work for this, Tom Garrett, Congressman Garrett, in getting this pastor out who, went to the Sudan in order to help feed people and ended up in jail for a very long time, and now he's finally at home. And, had you not been there and started the ball moving, look, he was there a very long time with other people on that committee, so it is what it is. And I want to thank you for that. Do you have any town hall meetings planned in your district?
We got two, one coming up in Charlottesville towards the end of the month and another one in Franklin in the interim, and we'll have numerous more. Meanwhile, we've also done 3 internet town halls, had, I think, 25,000 or so unique visitors. Did one just with local elected officials, school board, town council, city council, board of supervisors, and then 2 for the general public where we answered questions that we'd received via Twitter and Facebook, et cetera. So I'm happy with that. And, again, it's a full-time gig up here, but certainly happy to have spoken to literally tens of thousands of folks from every single locality in the 5th District via the wonders of technology.
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank Congressman Tom Garrett for being with us, Republican Congressman, 5th District of Virginia, serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee. For more information and to sign up for his weekly newsletter, go to Tom Garrett, 2 R's, 2 T's, tomgarrett.house.gov, tomgarrett.house.gov. Tom Garrett, thanks for being with us, man. We appreciate you, and we're going to have him on every Wednesday around the 7:30 hour, so we can look forward to that and plan on it. Thank you for that update, Congressman, and also thank you for your work in being able to get that Czech pastor home with his family.
A lot of credit to the Czechs and the Sudanese too, but to have been a part of that, to have gotten the results in the timeline that we did, it's humbling.
It is. Great job done by all. Good thing you're up there. Had you not gotten elected, he would still be in that jail. Now, I know you want to give credit to everybody else, but I mean, he was there a long time before you were there. That's all I want to say. Go to tomgarrett.house.gov.